today we are here for Artists and Accounting with Melinda McCutcheon. Melinda came to us today with over 35 years of accounting experience, which is amazing. This is a real great lecture for us, using both sides of our brain. She began as an auditor and has achieved the highest levels of accounting. Melinda has created, installed, and fine-tuned many accounting systems, ranging from the shoebox variety, which maybe some of us are familiar with, to a billion-dollar budget kind of accounting. And in addition to accounting, Melinda is an avid clay student and loves to raku. So today, Melinda will guide us in ways of setting up our finances and our records, and touching on business systems that can help you on a daily basis, as well as your year-end tax filing. So please help me welcome Melinda McCutcheon.
Thank you. Okay. I think I'm live. So I'll be on this, and sometimes I'll be here. So if you can stay with me, I appreciate it. And I really thank all of you for coming to something called an accounting lecture. I don't know that I would have shown for an accounting lecture, except I'm here giving it, and I know I'm going to enjoy it. So happy Patrick's Day to you. I hope you wore your green. I wore mine. I've already pinched her because she didn't have her green on. So if you're not safe, I'd go get some green. Second thing I wanted to tell you was this may be the most electrifying speech that you're going to hear here at NCECA. I said that to a couple of people yesterday, told them that I was going to talk about accounting, and they went, oh. So I think unless I'm going to stick my finger in an electric socket, this will probably not be the most electrifying lecture you're going to hear today. I'm not doing that. And the third thing I want to say is when she talked about filling out and rating this, it's real important that you do that. The way I got here was thanks to Cindy Bracker. I filled out the SurveyMonkey last year that went out, and it came out to everybody, and it said, hey, what do you think about NCECA? What do you think you should add? What do you think you would enjoy? I've been coming to NCECA since it was in Portland the last time. And I noticed there were never any business topics. There was never anything that talked about how we're artists, and I love to be an artist, and I'd much rather be in my right brain than my left brain. And when they have to come together, they collide. So we'll do that today. But I do think it's important that we have some business things to think about, some ideas that we can carry back to our office. Because much like when you get up and you have a habit and you brush your teeth every day, you go to the dentist twice a year. You do your books every day, or you do your books at least once a month because you got to file for your taxes, or you go to the bank for that loan, or you do something like that that helps you. So I'm hoping today that you'll pick one or two things up from this topic that might resonate with you and help you in your books. To introduce myself, she already has. I'm Melinda McCutcheon. I hail from Dallas, Texas, and I'm really excited to be in Kansas City because I drove up here. I didn't know it would be cheaper to drive than to fly, but today it is, and it's just so easy to drive right straight up the middle of the United States. It's just nice and flat and wide, so I enjoyed that drive up here. All right, that's some of my work. I do like raku. Those are udu drums. I'm going to start this. I'm not sure I'm going to have enough time for questions at the end, but I will be hanging around, and I do have my email in your app if you have questions. First, I want to recognize who I consider my mentor to be is Eduardo Lazo. I don't know if you've worked with him or if you know him. I know his book on naked raku is available over in the vendor fair. I've been to a couple of his seminars in Idlewild. I've worked with him off and on. He helped me put this presentation together, and if he weren't recovering from heart surgery right now, he would have been here to introduce me. So, meet Eduardo, the kindest, gentlest, mildest man I believe I've ever met. He called everything he did many times a happy accident. That's me in pictures, because I like pictures. Off to the left is an old shack that I took, turned it into a clay studio, and as you can see, now it's something that actually looks like a clay studio, but it was really horrific. Even the roaches wouldn't live in it when it was down there on the left. I had to take out the closets. I had to take up the rug. I had to nail things back on. I had to paint, put indoors. But I really like it, and it's where I get to go create. Off to the right, those are my 3 kids, and I am living proof that you can have a Blackhawks fan in the middle of a Dallas Stars fan, and they can smile for the camera. But there is one side that always wins, and then usually the other side's not real happy. Over here, you've got me. I'm also a realtor, so that's me taking some exams for my realtor exam. And I'm also like to garden. Where I have my shack, I have another 20 acres, and I have this huge, over 1,000 square foot garden that I have all kinds of vegetables that I then turn into things that we. So I like slow food. Across the bottom is my raku work, and I love the idea of creating a blank palette, putting it into the fire, and letting the fire do something. That's not like you do your books. You should not show up to your tax accountant with that attitude. That's now how we're going to segue into this next topic. How many of you have ever felt like this when it gets time to either pay your taxes, put your books together, or reconcile that checking account for the first time all year? I've been there. I'm the plumber that doesn't fix the plumbing because I'll get to it later. Don't do that. I've learned now that I'm on my own not to do that. So we're going to eliminate some of this. Because I'm not a tax accountant, and I want to make it clear, you guys are potters, and you're all different kinds of potters. We have people that do hand build, we have people that do wheel thrown, there's all kinds, and one person may not be an expert in the other. I'm not a tax expert. I'm not here to talk to you about taxes. Where I think it's really, really critical is how we get the most bang for the buck for our books and records, and it can be really simple. I like simple. So I've talked to my tax friends and said, what are the things you guys struggle with the most? They came up with 8 things. I added a couple more because I just wanted to have 10. 10. Well, we already kind of lit on that. March 15th, if you are in a corporation, a LLC, a partnership, anything that does not file a 1040, you should have filed your 1120. If not, you've probably extended your return. If you're not ready to file your 1040, you need to see if you qualify for an extension. Many times to qualify for an extension, you have to go ahead and pay that estimated tax that you think you owe if you haven't already paid it. So that's number 10, is just to remind you about the filing deadlines when it comes to tax and how you should work towards your books. All right, tax accountants. I ended up hiring one for myself. I do a couple of businesses now, and when I had a W-2, it was a lot easier, and I could just use the TurboTax, no big deal, W-2. Knock it in, and it calculates for you. All of a sudden, that didn't work so well because I didn't know all the tax rules, and things had changed. So if you think you want to do it yourself, or if you want to hire a tax accountant, I asked my guys, what would you ask these guys if you were going to have a tax accountant? Well, one, do they work with artists? Do they know what it means? Do they know if you're going to buy clay, if that's important, if that's a tax-deductible item for you? It's important that they know what it is that is in your business and create. I talked to someone yesterday who said, yeah, my tax accountant knows that batteries are deductible. Your H&R Block guy wouldn't know that unless you sat down with them and educated them. Are you available year-round? You don't just want them in January. What's your experience with the IRS? If they've got a lot of experience with the IRS, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. That either means they're getting audited a lot, or maybe they used to work for the IRS like mine does, so they know some of the ins and outs. Are they conservative or aggressive? This is important that you match your approach with their approach. You don't want to get with someone who's really aggressive and you're conservative. Say you want to show income on your tax return, but they want to be very aggressive and deduct as much as they can. That can collide and not work for you at times when you're getting ready to sign that return. How do you bill for your services? That's a question we all do. Do you do it once a year? Can I do it monthly? Do you take credit cards? What tax program do you use? We'll get into that a little bit more. How do we communicate about tax issues? Things change all year long. Do they have a letter? Do they even communicate with you? And what's the best date to have my records to you? How many of you already have, if you have a tax accountant, already have your records ready and you're ready to file your taxes? Awesome. Okay. A lot of you didn't raise your hand. I have 3 systems that I use currently. The easiest one is Excel. I just put this in here as a simple example. I hope you can see it. I go in and I download, and every tax accountant can use this. Don't let them tell you they can't. I go in and I download from my bank everything in that far left-hand column. I go identify across the top what the categories, whether it's supplies, whether it's income, what cash in, cash out, whether it's rent, utilities. There's categories that you and your tax accountant can talk about as to put things in. And then I just pop them over in those columns. And at the end and I do this every month. And at the end, I have what I've spent. If you did that 12 times a year, you would have enough information for your tax accountant to do your books and to be able to have an intelligent, what I consider intelligent conversation with your tax accountant as to what's deductible. So Quicken, if you want to skip the Excel step and you can get to Quicken, you can also download into Quicken and it'll take care of the same information. QuickBooks is a little bit harder. All of this is on YouTube. I Google and YouTube things quite often when I want to know how to do something in Quicken, QuickBooks, or Excel. Everybody has done something on the internet about it. All right, let's talk about a concept. It's called income tax for a reason. They want to tax your income. I think one of the biggest concepts we can understand is that if you do not identify your income and your expenses and why they are to be taxed or not taxed, or deducted or not deducted, I have sat through audits where the auditor said, just give me your cash account. I'm going to take all of your deposits. They're taxable. And now we're going to go through all your deductions, and we're going to determine if you have any support for them and if it makes sense. Would that look different than what you're turning in today if they just took your cash account, your checking account, and just took all your deposits and said that's income to you? So that's why it's critical monthly to go in and identify these things so that at the end of the year, you don't have to go back and remember what you were doing 8 months ago. You've already got it documented. Another thing I like to do is on my columns, if I'm getting W-2s or 1099s, I will pop those in separate columns. Never assume that the 1099 or the W-2 you got is correct. We would hope it's correct, but those are humans too that are doing that work, and you don't want to pay more or less tax based on what they say. Now, okay, I'm not going to go there. If I get a 1099 that's less than what I show, I'm probably pretty sure the 1099 is right. Just saying. One more, 6. They said, this was the biggest, I don't know if you can hear me. Hello? Hello back there, can you hear me? Okay. Well, I can take care of that. Number 6, this is probably more critical than the income. Document your receipts. If you could think of this as a 3-process way. Guys, do I need to do something with my mic? Hello? Hello? Oh, good. If you could think of this as a 3-prong approach, you've got a cash account, okay? You've got your Excel spreadsheet, and you've got the floor here if I don't watch where I step. And right here, you have where you're going to put your receipts and where you're going to put your support for income. It's 3 prongs. You've got your bank account. You know where all that activity is. You can put it into an Excel spreadsheet once a month just to be as a tickle file. And on this last one, at the end of the day, I can show you in my wallet right now where I've been accumulating my NCECA receipts, and when I go home, I'm going to put it in my NCECA folder for this month, and I may not get them taped and looking real pretty like that yet, but I will, because there will be a TV show I want to watch that comes on, and I'll grab my paper and tape, and I'll go tape, and off to the right I put what it was for, what the date is, and what the amount is. Now, I am old school in that I'm doing paper. A lot of us like to go green. I'll talk a little bit about that, in a minute, but for me, fast, quick, and dirty, which I like, that's what Clay's all about, is I do it like this. And then I've got it in a file, and later when I'm going through and I'm trying to remember, and let's say I've done it in Excel and I'm ready to put it in Quicken, it's a lot easier for me to flip through these pages and look through Quicken. So that's something that I would recommend that you do. 3 prongs. Your bank, Excel, your receipt folders. Now, I know you may be able to read this, you may not, and if you want these slides, I'm more than happy to send them to you. You've got my contact information. Talk to your tax accountant or yourself when you get ready. What categories do you want on your Excel spreadsheet? What makes sense to you? Many times what will make sense is we pay utilities in a clay shack, or I call mine the clay shack, but we pay utilities. Well, if you didn't do one firing in your kiln that month, do you think your electric bill is going to be as high as it would have been if you were firing all month long? And most of us can go in and identify the cost of firing your kiln. So you might have a separate account that says electric for kiln and electric for just regular utilities. Because what does it take to run my shop when I wasn't firing at all? Because you want a basic budget, and then you want to know what it's going to be when it comes that month to fire so that you can budget accordingly. So think about, what do you want to budget for? What does your accountant want to see that would need to be deducted, that you would want to break out for him? What are you going to have receipts for? Whether they're on a credit card, whether they're taped to a piece of paper, what is it that you're going to have? And I got to watch my time here. They said I'd have a timer on that, but they don't. So, all right, I'll stay with you. So consult your accountant on this. This is more important than anything. Hold on, let me get my phone because I don't have a timer up here. Okay, good. Reconcile your bank accounts. Keep your business separate from your personal. Don't ever get caught in a situation where you have to explain to an IRS auditor why you put something business in your personal. Just don't get there. And don't get there while you're paying for your business expenses out of your personal account. Keep them separate and reconcile it. And if you have someone else reconciling it for you, because you know you can have virtual accountant or virtual accountants, virtual assistants, and virtual accountants. You can have virtual people, or you can have people help you get there, but you still need to review it because they may not know what they're doing either. And I think in the language of money, much like the language of art, you need to understand where you're spending your money. You need to know if it looks like what you thought it was going to look like. You need to know if there's those ghost expenses, those things you're buying that maybe you really didn't need just yet, but you happen to be there and it's that impulse buy. These things will really come to light if you're looking at these things on a monthly basis. And you're reconciling your accounts. And like I said, it's income tax for a reason. They're looking for income to tax. Virtual, I said I'd talk a little bit about this. Millions of apps out there. I use one or two of these. I'm looking at using Neat Receipts. It's a scanning, portable scanning software that you can have at your house. And I hesitate on that because by the time I get around to setting that up, I just don't want to do that. I mean, I don't think you want to do that either. I'd much rather be playing in the clay and glazing something. So that may be something that you talk to your tax accountant, or maybe just somebody that you can, a high school student or a college student or somebody that wants to make some extra money. They can do this for you and make it even neater for the tax accountant. Me, like I said, I like the organic way. I can sit here and have my cash account, my Excel spreadsheet, and my folders and tie those things together, and I'm rocking. Cam Scanner. This is something I've used actually while I was here. If you've not used this, it's a free app. It's where wherever you're at, if you want to take a picture of something and turn it into a PDF and email it to somebody, you can use Cam Scanner. Many of you will have other apps that you can use. Shoebox receipt and mileage, and then another one I use is Everlance. I carry my phone with me. Obviously, don't we all? That was kind of stupid to say, but anyway. Yes, I carry my phone with me just occasionally. But wherever I am, it tracks where I am, and it tracks the mileage. So at the end of the day, I can pull these trips up, and I can swipe it to the right if it's personal, or swipe it to the left if it's a business, or delete it, because if I was flying somewhere, those are probably not going to be miles that are on my car. So it's always going to be on your purse, and it's going to be tracking your miles. That's Everlance, One Receipt, and then Neat Receipts. And I'd welcome you to go out and look at all these things, because there are some things that are out there that'll be nice and will tuck into your QuickBooks and your Quicken, and you can have images there instead of dealing with paper. But to me, it all starts out as paper. So that's just extra work for me, and I don't go that way just yet. All right, this was my made-up slide number 2, because Og Mandino wrote in The Greatest Salesman on Earth that we're a creature of bad habits, or that we tend to be slave to habits, and many times and I said that wrong, we are slaves to our bad habits. So much like if we start a new habit and we start getting it going, we like what happens with that new habit and we enjoy it, then we start doing that more often, and sooner or later we become a slave to a new habit, a good habit, and it was our choice. This too could become your choice of a good habit of making sure you do your books every month. I was thinking yesterday when I heard about critical response, if you were there last night. I have yet to meet an IRS auditor that said, I have an opinion about that. Would you like to hear it? Not going to happen. They have an opinion and you owe them. So on all of these, I think what gives you some information that you can think about. I hope at least one person gets one concept from this. It's how critical it is to have your books every month in a simple format so that you can have a knowledgeable conversation with your tax accountant about getting the biggest bang for your bucks, for your receipts, and make sure you don't get taxed on money that is not income to you. So you can still drink the Jack Daniels or anything of your choice because you are happy if you want, but I think we can eliminate the Tums, the Alka-Seltzer, and no-dose. Does anybody even take that anymore? I mean, this was really an old no-dose. That was when I was in college. And we can be happy and have money and just whatever. So, top 10. I just have a couple more slides and I'll leave it open for questions. You may be filing an extension. I would suggest you hire a tax accountant and you ask them what it is, some of those questions I ask you. Get a system. Keep it simple. Identify your cash in, identify your cash out. Put it in categories. Reconcile your cash monthly. Number 3, shop for apps if you think they're going to help you. All of these things are going to make you happier next January at this time when you get ready to do this again. Yes! And I love baby pictures, they make me laugh. So you can be successful at this. It doesn't sound like fun, but brushing your teeth every morning probably didn't when you were a little kid either. But we do it, and it's critical. I do it once a month. Just kidding. I do my books once a month. I brush my teeth whether I need to or not. Okay. It takes money to make money. If you don't have a good grasp on the language of money, you need to. Look for my blogs if you haven't seen them. I think some of them are written up in the books. I like to make this fun. I know accounting can be incredibly boring. I really didn't want to be an accountant, but my dad said it was that or a petroleum engineer, so I picked one of the two. So I became an accountant for 35 years. I feel very fortunate that when I filled out the Survey Monkey, I put at the very bottom, in the very fine print, I wish there was some business practices for accountants that we could talk about. Help me understand how I can do that. Okay, I sent that off thinking nobody's going to read that, right? It's at the very bottom of the survey. Cindy Bracker reads everything. She wrote me and said, I read what's on your survey, blah, 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 that's great. So she gave me this topic. That's what I'm here to talk to you about. I have many, many other topics I can talk about. I'd love to have your suggestions if there are things you'd like to hear about. And I appreciate your time today. Have you got any questions? I'll open the floor. Yes, ma'am. She asked if when you file a Schedule C for inventory and you have a Schedule C, do you use the inventory method? Your tax accountant can use one of two methods, and it's really between you and them. I'm not going to give you tax advice on that because I would just say I wouldn't do inventory, except what I would do is I would go count the clay I still have on the floor. I would count everything once a year that I think is inventory, and I would put that over here on a balance sheet and take it out on my cost of sales. Or you go that's becoming accrual basis, or you come cash. And see, we start getting into all different kinds of detail that'll really bore you guys to death and me about cash and accrual. But I can talk to you a little bit about that if you want to stay after. Anybody else with questions? Yes, sir. Ma'am. My blog, it's on NCECA. It's on NCECA.net. And I think I've talked about the balance sheet being a selfie. Because a balance sheet is just that snapshot in time. It changes as soon as you take it. Anybody else? Yell out. Yes, ma'am. That is right. I do it by month because once you have it on an Excel spreadsheet or it goes into your Quicken, you can find out what month it's in, and you probably not, this is really not the big business people, but the ones that, you're just going to go to that month and flip through it, and if you have them in date order, you're going to be able to find it. The other one means you got to buy file folders, you got to file labels. Blah! I don't even want to do that. Yell up. Anybody?
Hi there.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm going to the next stage in my transition here, and what it is that I've collected a small group of artists who together are going to rent space and sell work, and I'm set up to do a square reader, and I'm wondering about any particular advice you might have about tracking these things. I don't know where to go exactly to ask you, but anything that you can tell me would be great.
With your Square Reader, you're going to get a statement from them that shows that from the Square Reader company, and I think there's several of them that'll help you, that you can link up to your Square Reader, that will tell you the money that was deposited and
right.
the fees they took out. And you're going to record, and that's going to go into, I would put that into a separate account probably, just so I can track that.
Yes, it's going to go in a separate bank account.
And then you're going to transfer it over to the other one when it's to your business, when you're
It's going to go, right, it's going to go to the business, which I've created a separate business. So it's
Right.
going to go to that separate business
Okay.
bank account. And then checks will be written out to the artists at the end of the month is the plan.
That's great. Great idea. I love that. Yeah, what you'll have is for your income, you're going to show $100. And if they took a $2 fee out for doing that, you're going to have a column for fee, $2. You know, on that Excel spreadsheet I was talking about, money in, fee. And then when you pay your artist, it's going to go in the artist column that is paid.
Okay, so it sounds like for me, being very well-versed on Excel would be a good step.
Yes.
Okay.
Excel really works well for this. The other thing I was thinking when you said that, are you doing this as a C Corp? Are you S Corp, LLC, anything?
It's just,
Okay.
I filed a DBA and I'm doing it as just a
Schedule
single
C?
sole proprietor, Schedule
proprietor?
C, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
I would want you to consider maybe getting some advice on that. I'm not going to give it to you, but you're leaving yourself open for a lot of liability.
I know that I am, and I've decided to do it that way.
Okay, all right, good. All
I
right.
do have one other question about receipts for customers.
Yes, ma'am.
I've talked to different people about the idea of having handwritten backup. You know, we're running it through a Square reader. We'll have a receipt that comes out. Is there a reason to have paper backup?
No,
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to double do work if I can avoid it, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I've had an experience where looking at Excel for me is just crazy.
Okay.
It seems so busy and visually unfriendly, and I might be the only one, but I have found QuickBooks.
Really?
And so I'm wondering if, because I use Square Reader, and it looks like a system that is integrated. I mean, it looks really easy. I've just started to explore this. Do you have any experience with that? If you seem to like Excel so much, I'd just like to hear a little bit more about how to make that easier, or
Well,
why
no, I'm
something
with
like...
you. I use Excel because for me, I can do it really quick, but I actually take my Excel and pop it into Quicken and QuickBooks when we're
Okay.
all done. Because I may not get to my Quicken and QuickBooks right away, but I know I can every month do the Quicken or the Excel, and it's going to jog my memory for the things I want to know about the other two. So for you, I think I'd go ahead and check into QuickBooks and start that so you're not touching it more than once. But if you find for one moment you're getting behind or you're not able to stay up with it because we'd rather be, there's a lot of things that happen in business besides books. That's back office work, right? You might want to try the Excel just for a really high level keeping track of things on a
More
monthly
details.
basis.
Is it
And
more-
the
is it more
detail would go into
detail-oriented?
your QuickBooks.
Okay.
And I can if you want to talk a little more about that, I'd be happy to give you, some of my thoughts on that and what will
Terrific.
make it easy for you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Hi. Yeah, I'm also on the verge of expanding my clay business from what I've got now. And can you speak a little bit about amortizing large items, like kilns and equipment that's large and expensive, and how, for what time period you can do that?
Yeah, I love technical questions. This is going to be fun. This is going to be something you're going to pick up actually with your tax account when you get ready to do it, because that's when you're going to care the most. But what he's talking about is when you go and buy an asset that's a kiln, something that's going to sit in your business and it's going to last longer than a year. It has a life that lasts longer than a year. You're going to do something that's called depreciate, and that's the word you're looking for, is depreciate that asset. And a kiln, I believe, they think is a 3 to 5 year asset. There's tax tables that tell you how long it is. And the idea behind depreciation is that that kiln that's sitting there is going to wear out over a period of years. And so the tax tables have given us the life of that and said, okay, you can take 1/5 of that and expense it this year, and 1/5 the next year, and 1/5 the next. And if you sell it in the meantime, you may have to recoup some of that as income. So I won't give you a real detail. I'll just tell you that if you have a tax accountant, they'll be perfect in telling you things that you want to depreciate versus things you want to expense in that year. It's not always good to go in and expense everything in that year, because if you're going to the bank to get a loan for your business, or if you want to talk money with a banker or an equity investor or something, and they see that you're making nothing, because you deducted your kiln, you deducted your car, you deducted your house, you deducted everything you could, well, that can play against you. That's where I was talking about being with a conservative or an aggressive accountant and making sure you two are on the same page as to what your goals are for your business. Did that answer your question? Good. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
So you have to keep track of all your supplies in, right? You know, like how many pounds each purchase display versus how much you have left over in the year.
Well, what I do, and we actually did this I used to work for an alcoholic beverage company, Glazers, you may know them here. I was their chief accounting officer. That huge company, $4 billion in sales, here's how we did theirs. Everything you buy becomes something you think you're going to use this year as a cost of sale. And at the end of the year, I go look at everything that's still sitting, not sold. I count it. I have the value for it. I put that on the balance sheet. I take it out of cost of sales and put it on the balance sheet because I didn't sell that, right? I just leave it there. We don't touch it. And they don't do this anymore. This is when they were smaller. But I don't touch it till the end of the next month if I need to do monthly, or at the end of the year if I just care about it at year end. Then the next year, I put it back in cost of sales and I count what's on the floor now. And I take it out. Because we're pretty sure that I probably used everything that was on the floor. It became a cost of sale because I probably made something out of it and sold it. But everything that still hasn't been sold, get it out of cost of sales. And that becomes an accrual method. That becomes the way you look at instead of a cash method. Does that? I can draw it on paper for you afterwards if you want me to. Okay.
For artists who travel with their artwork, what do you account for with
There you
that?
are.
With your traveling expenses?
Say it one more time.
For artists who travel with their artwork, what do you account for with your traveling expenses?
How do you mean, what do you count? You get to deduct them.
Everything? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Your meals and everything. It's your travel. Your meals and entertainment will be 50%. But if you're doing lunch and learn or you're having a meeting with someone and you're serving lunch, that's 100% deductible. That gets into some technical tax stuff, but that's one of the things I do know. So yeah, no, your travel here for you guys was deductible if you're in your business. You know, if you're using this as a business, your meals here were deductible at 50%. Keep every receipt you've got here. I don't care if you do cleaning here while you're here. That's deductible. All your expenses while you're here are deductible. Yes? Mm-hmm. Yes, you can Google that. I call it GTS, and you probably know what that means. Let's Google that. Anyway, I GTS all that stuff, and I know just to be you guys, to know. And there are a lot of answers that are out there. It's a gray area. If it's going to be equipment, if it's going to be repair of equipment, if it's going to be maintenance of equipment, if it's going to be a supply. Think of supplies or things that you're really buying over and over and over, and you can't specially attribute any one thing in your office, like your stapler. Can't attribute that to any one thing in your office. Your needlepoint tool. Can't attribute that to any one thing on your wheel. Okay, they're supplies. They're what you use in your business, whether you didn't make another thing to sell. Does that work? Does that help you? And it is kind of vague what I'm telling you, and I can just come on up here afterwards and I'll answer your questions a little more. Give you some source. Okay, I think that's it. I really I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful to you. And email me. Thank you very much.